Welcome to The Conscious Leader, the place where we have conversations about conscious leadership at home, at work, and in our community. Today we're going to talk about conscious leadership at home, students leading the way.
Hi everyone, welcome to The Conscious Leader, and today we're going to be speaking about conscious leadership at home. And we have our guest today, Jim Treadway. So Jim, introduce yourself. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Okay. For work, I tutor teens and run a tutoring company. And for people who know the Tony Robbins world, I say I put the Tony in the tutoring. So I just use it all as a excuse to show them their personality type. I used to work as an expert in personality type and let them know their superpowers, which, they often don't really know. Let them know how their brain works, why certain situations might be hard and others are a really natural fit for them. And probably hold them to a higher standard than they're used to holding themselves, almost always. And probably beam a whole lot of love on them. And then what I like from the Tony world, and I'd say I bring this to the students, is that I like to show them how to go after something like an elite performer, like someone who goes and blows himself away with what they can do, as opposed to letting themselves off the hook along the way, and then they don't do what they know they can do, and then they feel disappointed inside. So that's the work picture.
A beautiful picture.
Cool. Yeah, so we have 15 tutors, and I was gonna name the company's called Growthwise, and I was thinking about what to name it for like 4 years ago, and I actually wanted to call it Lightworkers. You know what a Lightworker is?
Explain.
Yeah, I might not really either, but here's my best guess. It's from what I feel like I've Googled. It's a light worker is like someone who's had to really struggle and fight through the darkness to find themselves and their own light, and then they take that light to help shine it on others' paths so they can find themselves too. And I didn't know what that was until like 2 years ago, but like 4 years ago when I was thinking of what to name the company, I really liked this name Lightworkers, and I just really liked it. I just liked it. I didn't know what it was, what it was for, but I couldn't justify it in my head. So I called the company Growthwise. So it's like grow your grades, grow your character, grow your self-awareness, all that. Growthwise made a lot of sense, but it didn't have my heart. But I couldn't justify the other one, so I went with Growthwise. And then I found out 2 years later what Lightworkers means. I was like, oh my God, it's like everything that I want us to be doing is like just shining a light on each person's path so they can help find themselves.
So is there a possibility of a AKA in your future in regards to your company and name change?
I'm sure there is. It does not feel like it's on the docket. But yeah, who knows? A lot of this last Date with Destiny. How many Date with Destinies have you been to?
This was my second.
Okay. This one for me was just like a big takeaway, just learning to trust God's timing. So just be open, let it flow in, and that I'll leave that name change up to God.
That's beautiful. And the AKA that I'm referencing is as simple as like Johnson and Johnson is AKA JJ. So
oh yeah,
you can
AKA Lightworkers.
You can do the AKA. So there's that. But I'd love to know what your personal journey has been in really. Do you have a key moment in your past that you can think of where you came into conscious leadership for yourself, where it was an awakening in how you connected and communicated?
1,000,000%.
Share with us.
How about you? Do you have a moment like this?
Oh, I have many.
Yes. Have one that stands out even more than the others?
Yes.
How long ago was it?
My first memory was when I was 10.
First, like breakthrough memory or memory?
First memory of having a conscious moment in which I was leading myself intentionally.
How much have you talked about it on your own podcast?
Mm, I haven't talked about that one yet.
So no one's ever going to interview you.
Not about conscious leadership. I have been interviewed, but
Right,
not
right, right.
about conscious leadership. But
On the
we need you to answer the question, Jim. Now that you've
I,
bought yourself some time, come on, tell
I,
us. What was
I
your
have no
experience?
need to buy myself time. Patricia, something is calling me to ask you about it. So very interesting. Um, let's see. Okay, mine was when I was 20. And I was like 3 weeks into my junior year at Harvard for undergrad.
Hmm.
And I had like done everything I could. This is the like oversimplified narrative that I've put on it, but I'd done just everything I could to just like achieve like crazy,
Hmm.
just try to be who I thought would get my parents' love, and was really depressed and anxious, and like had hardly any idea how to be myself or who I was, and so there was a lot of stress with all that, and I had chronic pain in my hands the first 2 years of college, and um, and I saw like every doctor you could see, and there was just all these like ergonomic and whatever physical explanations were given. And then my mom's friend passed along a book that helped her a lot, which by John Sarno, who was this back doctor at NYU. And have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
His theory that he started coming out with in the 70s was that most chronic pain is caused by repressed emotions.
Hmm.
And
That.
yeah, and so he said most of the people he sees were perfectionists and goodists, always trying to be a good person.
Hmm.
So they're just putting so much pressure on themselves. And I knew I was like 14 out of 10 on both of those,
Hmm.
goodist and perfectionist. So read the book, I knew it was me, and I couldn't even do my homework anymore. I had like a 12-page paper due, the Cuban Revolution the next day, and I would rewrote the intro like 200 times and just couldn't make it any further.
Hmm.
So I knew that book was me. I read it like, who knows, in a day or two, and immediately took the semester off, but like knew it was going to be the year. So I took the year off actually. And I think the people around me thought I was losing my mind. Um, and all the pain in my hands disappeared.
Hmm.
Um, so it was like a light bulb went on. It was like every moment. And I wonder if I'm quite kinesthetic, so I wonder if it's this way for people who aren't so kinesthetic.
Hmm.
Um, it was like every moment there were these ones and zeros going by, and it was basically stress or relaxation.
Hmm.
And I realized it was telling me each moment the relaxation number was my path.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, and it didn't have me chill and check out. Sometimes the relaxation sensation was taking me to something really courageous, scary.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just realized I was like, oh my god, like this is a way to go through the world, and I'm never again living for other people, which is what I had been doing. That was the start of a whole personal growth journey 15 years ago.
Wow. A really deep one. And since you were digging into mine, I'll go ahead and start where mine
Good.
was. I thought about it. It's not when I was 10. It was
Uh-huh.
actually when I was 7. And I think I did share
Uh-huh.
this story before, but
Uh-huh.
not from the perspective of it being consciously leading myself. And
Right.
it was me coming into the U. So I was born in New York,
Mm.
but raised in Haiti the
Mhm.
first few years of my life. And my mom had lived here in the States, and we were out in Haiti, and I wanted to visit my mom. So my dad had sent me over to visit her. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I'm the youngest of 6 children between the two of them. I'm the sixth of 8 children from my dad's side.
Mm.
And so when I went to visit her, it was like all the girls were together. And when I'm in Haiti, it was me hanging out with my brothers and my dad. So it was like, ooh, oh my gosh, I'm hanging out with all the girls. I want to live here. And I
Really?
remember going into school in the States, little skinny girl from the islands, heavy accent, really spoke fluent French and barely English, right? And
Mhm.
I'm standing in that space and I remember connecting with all of, or trying to connect with the other Black girls in the class, and all of them responding to me like, oh no,
Mm.
no,
Mm.
no, no. And I found it to be the oddest thing, especially since like where I grew up and where I came from, like everyone was together. I didn't even I to me it was like they were speaking a foreign language. I didn't understand what that meant. But
Mm.
my response to that scenario was, you guys are weird and I'm going to connect with some other people over here
Yeah.
because you guys are weird.
Whoa.
And so that was actually like my conscious response to that, as to, I'm not doing whatever this is, and
Huh.
I'm going to do what I see over here in other people connecting. And I
Wow.
never really looked at it as me being conscious about that scenario until you asked me like the youngest memory of me being conscious and me taking like an intentional action.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure I've arrived at the point that your 7-year-old was able to lead herself in that moment.
Yeah,
It's
now
really good to hear.
she's still dealt with her heartaches, right? Because there's still the whole thing of wanting to connect with people and now seeing
Yeah.
that the American version of what looks like you
Mm.
doesn't know how to connect, or
Mm.
you don't know how to connect with them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it took me years to kind of come through that because I ended up shunning um African American people.
Hmm.
Like I literally was like, I'm good with islanders. I'm good with all the other Caribbean, people who are like me. I'm good with any other culture, any other, ethnicity.
Hmm.
But African Americans, you guys are weird. And it was because of that childhood experience until I got into high school. That high school is when it started to flip around, where I was just like, what do you guys want? And then it was, oh, okay, you're not weird anymore. You were just confused. Okay, I was confused too. How about we leave it at that? And then, kind of just went on with life from there.
Wow.
But yeah, it's still like emotional, like trauma from all of that.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Wow. That was really good. That was great to hear. Interesting.
Yeah. So that was a conscious moment for me. But
Yeah.
when it comes to, okay, so you spoke about like your journey and coming through that space. And I'd really love to know that when it comes to the tutoring,
Mm.
and really what is it that you are seeing in, I would guess, the combination of teenagers, young adults, really stepping into a space of consciously leading themselves in that
Mm.
area, because you get to witness a lot more than the average parent when it comes to that space and how either one is stepping in or stepping out.
Interesting. Conscious leadership in teens.
Yeah, like just an intentional movement, or an intentional like format that they're stepping into, maybe something they're creating in
Mhm.
that space when they connect with a tutor, or they connect with you or someone that you know, or maybe it's a result after going through the tutoring and what that looks like when they step into themselves.
The truth to me seems to be that those moments are rare.
Hmm.
And everyone's just like mostly in a long tunnel of teeny little squeaks in of light.
Hmm.
Um, but the real like moments of self leadership, they do feel rare. Um, and I'm just trying to see what seems common to it. It does feel like kids' capacity for it is so much a reflection of the family they come from.
Mm.
and how much capacity the parents are showing for it, for the conscious leadership. Like that quality seems to go hand in hand between the kids and the parents.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I'm thinking of one student on the West Coast. He went to this really new age kind of school where they're really conscious leadership is probably like really what they're trying to promote there. And so, you could write a paper for, for your final paper for a course, my student was given the chance to like woodwork an etching of a poem
Mm.
and kind of render it artistically and then, give a presentation on what the whole thing meant to him instead of writing the paper. So really giving a lot of conscious choice. And then he went to Brown, and his mom told me like he had just elected to take like the hardest physics course like on campus. Um, and he was just eagerly seeking out like challenge me to the max. And it's really, he might be the only student I've seen really, really do that, believe it or not.
Wow.
I feel like so much of the culture that I see is instead a lot more of get stressed, complain, hope it's going to be easy, uh, let yourself off the hook, mixed with try really hard, but like, yeah, those moments of self leadership, they do feel really quite rare. And maybe I'm not doing it justice, and it's gonna hit me later. I'm like, oh wait, no, there's all these other examples, but that's what's coming to me right at this moment.
I love that access because one of the things that you highlighted is how you have added the TR element to your tutoring. And one of the key elements that we know when it comes to anything pertaining to Tony is really walking in the spaces of self-mastery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
really gaining control of yourself, your state, your meaning, your beliefs, and how you're stepping in and out of a space.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be even helpful if you could share like what some of that looks like
Mm.
or could look like if you have a merger of conscious leadership at home
Mm.
between parents and child, or really just a teenager or youth taking self control and self mastery and stepping into leadership.
Yeah, I feel like it comes out to a mix of don't let yourself off the hook at all. Give it your absolute best, and know that the test does not freaking matter. And instead, it's what you see so much of is the opposite. It's like, oh my god, the test is so important, and like I'm actually really defeating myself with stories and letting myself off the hook at a level lower than what will actually make me happy and make me proud of myself, while thinking the test is the most important thing in the world.
Hmm.
It's very curious. Do you think that answers it?
I think so. I think it definitely touches on it because a lot of the pieces, there's so many different elements to it, right? Like it has, I kind of look at everything about conscious leadership as like stepping into a garden.
Mm-hmm.
And when you step into that garden, there are all these different types of flowers in there, right? And some of them are in bloom, some of them are bulbs, some of them are still trying to work their way through the ground, right? No matter what, you're seeing all these different layers of leadership. And it looks and presents itself in a bunch of different ways.
Mm.
Sometimes it hits you with the scent, right? When you're walking through that garden, sometimes it's like a specific rose, and you will smell the rose before you can find it. And it's the scent that drives you to it, right? And I look at that as like elements of, I just had an interview the other day with these two gorgeous souls, these young ladies who were speaking about leading positivity and how they are bringing positivity at home. And so they are able to then spread that to their friends in their circles. And this is a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, right? And they were speaking to how when they're connecting with their friends or they're communicating online, you know, their friends are speaking one way and they're doing their best to draw them back to, yeah, but let's look to the better part of this. Let's speak to the better part of it, which is leadership, right? So they're intentionally stepping into that space. And I see that for me, that is like the scent of the rose, right? Where they're putting that scent out there of this beautiful rose that is leading people into a leadership space within themselves by viewing it. And that's what I really appreciated about the conversation with them. So it's elements like that. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yes, it does make sense. There's probably like 1,000 threads I could pull from all these experiences that are along these lines. Um, hmm, interesting. Maybe I need a more directed question to pull
Sure.
stuff out.
Sure. So when let's put it let's go with maybe some challenging moments
Hmm.
because leadership is walking yourself through that as well. So, with some of your students, I'm sure with all of your students, that they all have challenging moments, right? Like we as human beings, we all have our challenging moments. How we choose to lead ourselves through those spaces determines the outcome and who we are at the arrival of the outcome. So, have you seen anything in that space of either your students taking on their own leadership with a challenge or
Hmm.
with any of your tutors
Hmm.
stepping into their leadership and intentionally guiding a student in that space at home?
Let's see. I think as tutors, on one hand, we want to help the kids feel really seen and heard.
Mm.
Um, and so, like, part of tutor training will be do you know about Chris Voss's FBI hostage negotiator book?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of tutor training, and it's just these techniques that just really help people feel seen and heard.
Mm.
Um, so that, and then we just hire sweethearts from the like just as it is too. Um, so it's like it really doesn't matter what school you went to. Like if there's any whiff of intellectual arrogance, like not a chance. It's just
Mm.
like
That's
warmth,
beautiful.
good, cool, patience, warmth. Like they are freaking. They're such light workers. These tutors, they're so lovely. Um, and then the other piece that I hope to train is, um, you know that book, The Talent Code, Daniel
I've heard
Coyle.
of it.
Yeah, Tony talks about it a lot actually, and they look at like what parts of the world are developing talent better than elsewhere. So soccer in Brazil, ping pong in China, tennis in Russia, um, and it's the opportunity to have lots of quick, fine calibrations and adjustments to what they're doing, so that they can improve, 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 improve. And so like Brazil is so good at soccer because they play this game, an indoor version of soccer with a smaller ball where it's super tight. So you get 5 times as many touches and interactions with the ball as you would on, a soccer field as we learn to play it here in America, just on a big field. And then also probably kids playing street ball with soccer is again, your tight spaces, uneven bounces, so many more interactions with the ball to calibrate, sharpen your technique. And or they look at like John Wooden, who was coach at UCLA basketball, and they won like I don't know, they won a ton of titles, so maybe even 10 in a row or something in the 60s and 70s. And the way he would run his practice is he was just constantly giving this immediate verbal feedback, correction, 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 correction. It was never personal. We're never making you feel like a bad person for what you did. Just correct, 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 correct. So you're getting all this immediate feedback. So what we want to do is mix like really seeing and hearing and feel and helping the kid feel seen and heard and felt, and then with constant calibrations of like, nope, let's do it better, let's do it better, let's do it better, no, you can do better, and in a playful way just calling them out to show up and do better. So it's like that it's that mixture. Man, I wish
I love that. I love that because it simplifies something that lots of people tend to make complicated.
hmm,
And the reason why I say simplified, it's because you're highlighting truly looking at micro distinctions within yourself or within your work, like looking at little elements of distinctions. And by looking at that little distinction, you just tweak a little, move the lever one way, move the lever another until you find what fits. And then once you've got that landing and it's solid and strong, okay, next one,
mm-hmm,
tweak a little, and you just keep tweaking until it settles within you on, okay, this works for me. But
mm-hmm,
that in and of itself is such a beautiful conversation and framework, because then it's not feeling this overwhelming charge of, I've got these big steps I need to take, this big move that needs to happen, what is this next thing. It's, no, what's within your space that
mm-hmm.
you own, that you can manage, that you can control.
Right. As you say it too, it's like, oh man, I bet there's a way we could convey this even like so much more powerfully. It's that is one of the most important things with, because we do a lot of SAT and ACT tutoring, and but it's just like within your space. And how can you communicate that? So, oh my God, it's so important. It might even be the most fundamental, like important thing that we see over and over of where kids are tripping over themselves and parents too, maybe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely, let's see,
Because it's
me.
so easy to get caught up in what the overall outcome is supposed to be, right? Like it's so easy to go, there's the end game, there's the big picture. Whoo, I need to leap. And it's like, no, it's still one step at a time before you get there.
Mhm,
Like, that's not where you're aiming for now.
mhm,
That's the ultimate end game. What
mhm,
you're aiming for now is, oh, left foot, right foot,
mhm.
left foot, right foot, right? Like, that's what you're aiming for now. That distinction of a step.
Yeah, maybe this is helpful. This used to help me so much as a tutor when I used to struggle with it more. And and we teach this to students all the time. It's you, instead of judging yourself on the results,
Mm.
judge yourself on your effort, and are you willing to learn from what happened.
Hmm.
So if and if I gave my best effort and I'm going to learn everything I can from what happened, if your answers to those two questions are yes, you are a success. um, and I needed that sometimes where like I just wasn't quite as skilled or whatever. As experience as a tutor, it's such an intimate experience with these families, and people are bringing all kinds of insecurities and fears and and people just naturally can misunderstand each other, etc. So if sometimes in the past it would go off with a family somehow or with a kid, or just it was like, oh man, like what's going on, why is this not working? I needed that to reframe for myself. And I would just go back to like, all right, well, I've given my best effort. Will I learn everything I can from this? Yes, yes. And then I would be at peace, even if the family might have been unhappy. And yeah, and so I'm teaching that to kids all the time and to tutors, like anytime, their mistakes.
I love that because all of that is consciously or intentionally stepping into leading yourself. Like,
Mm,
did I give it my best effort? How
mm-hmm,
do I feel about this? What are the little distinctions that I am in control of that I can just twist the lever on? And when it comes to my engagement with other people, am I making sure that they're seen, heard,
mm,
and understood?
mm-hmm.
So I love everything that you just shared with us in just 30 minutes. So I appreciate you for being here, Jim. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, such a pleasure. Going a
Yeah.
lot longer. Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. So, thank you guys for joining us on today's Conscious Leadership at Home. I am your fellow conscious leader, and all I have to tell you in everything that we shared, in everything that's going on within this time, no matter what today